What's going on, everybody? This is Qazi. Welcome to the mother of all tutorials, the ultimate crash course for DaVinci Resolve colors. I'm going to take you from not knowing anything about Resolve all the way to grading your first professional gig. And for those out there who want to become a colorist and want to take their game to the next level, make sure to check the link in the description below. And with that said, make sure to hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for more awesomeness, and let's roll the intro. All right, let's just jump right into the training overview, what I'm going to be covering in this webinar, and let's go. So I'm going to show you how to create a database as if it's your first time opening Resolve. How do you set everything up right? So we're going to create a database. I'm going to show you project settings. I'm going to breeze through it. I'm only going to show you what you need to know, and then everything else, we're not even going to worry about it. We're going to get into, I'm going to show you the hottest way to conform your footage. Conforming basically means prepping your footage for color. So if you're coming from Media Composer, if you're coming from Premiere Pro or Final Cut 10, what is the best way, the most precise way to get your footage in Resolve and out of Resolve? And then we're going to talk about color page overview. I'm just going to show you a couple of quick things so you can navigate your way around in the color page. As a colorist, it's very important. And then I'm going to show you how to read scopes. This is your best friend. If you are starting out, you're probably not working with a $30,000, $5,000, $10,000 monitor. So for that, you really have to rely on scopes to help you out that extra mile. And then we're going to go into color correction. That's exciting. I'm also going to show you color grading in this tutorial that I created, and you guys are going to freaking love it. And then everybody's freaking favorite, anything and everything is apparently about skin tones. Like everyone talks about it. That was the highest voted question in here. So I'm going to be showing you how to pull the best skin tones and how to go about it. And then I'm going to show you when you're delivering for the web, if it's YouTube or Vimeo, how to get the best image quality without any artifacts or anything like that. So that's what we're covering. Let's just jump right into it. I have Resolve already open. I hope everybody is joined in, and let's just jump right in. Okay, so the first thing when you open Resolve, you're going to see this local database, and it's going to be just like untitled project. You don't want to do that. You don't want a local database. Local database meaning that it's on your Mac OS or on your PC C drive. You don't want to leave things there, because what happens is that if your system crashes, you lost everything. So you want to put that on your scratch drive. Scratch drive, most of you already know what a scratch drive is. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to hit new database right here. One more thing really quick. This little guy is your best friend, okay? Because when you open up Resolve, it might look like this. So you could be like, hey, how did you get there? This little guy always means that there's a menu hidden. So when you click on it, it pops that open. This is where all my databases are. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on new database. Once I click on that, I get two options. By default, it's selected to connect. I don't want to connect, I want to create. So I'm going to click on create. I'm going to call it something like Resolve 16_DB database. Okay, or you can give it your hard drive name. So it could be Studio 10, that's where it's going, database, DB. And then once that happens, I can click on location. And then where do I want to save it? I want to save it on Studio 10. And then I want to create a folder. And I'm going to call that folder DR, DaVinci Resolve Live Training DB. Okay, and then I'm going to hit enter and I'm going to say open. Once we do that, all you got to do is create, and you're going to see the Studio 10 is selected. Anything that's selected in Resolve is going to be highlighted in orange. You can turn that off. That's our project. Let's just jump right into it. So what I'm going to do is double click. We're inside Resolve. This is what you're going to see first, or you might see a different window, but this is what you're going to be created with. Let's just jump right into our project settings, and that's that little cogwheel right here at the bottom right. Click on it, pop it open, and let's just run through these really, really freaking fast. So the first thing that you want to do, or you're going to see, is going to be master settings. You want to leave your timeline format in 1080p, and that is the sauce right here, okay? Even if you're working with 8K footage, let's just say a red helium or something like that, you do not want to change this to 8K. That's the biggest rookie mistake. It's going to choke your system. Doesn't matter. You could be using iMac or the new Mac Pros that are coming out. It's going to choke your freaking system. So you want to leave that in 1080p, because ultimately, what's the final output? If you're working on commercials, things like that in US, the output is always going to be 1080p so far. We're not moving to 4K anytime soon. So when that happens, that means you want to leave that in 1080p because that's the final output, okay? And that's going to make everything so freaking smooth that you can be using a 2016 laptop and everything can work perfectly fine. Video monitoring, I can leave it as is, or I can set it to 2396. So basically mimic whatever you have in the timeline. Rest looks good. Let's just go down. You don't need to change any of that because once we created a database, it set everything up automatically for us. Then we're going to go under image scaling. One thing that you just need to look at in image scaling is input scaling. So let's say if you are using red and you have this set to center crop, you don't want to do that. Center crop means that then it's going to punch in 8K image, and then all you're going to see is like that, cropped image for your 1080p timeline. So you just want to make sure that you set it to scale entire image to fit. That means it's downsampling 8K footage into 1080 and it's going to look so juicy, so good. So you want to do that. Color management, leave it as is. Do not mess with that. If you're working on commercials, if you're working on videos for web, product videos, things like that, this is the setting, okay? It's set to by default set to Rec 709, Gamma 2.4. That's exactly what you need on a Mac. Leave it as is. Don't worry about any of these. Come down. This is where the freaking magic happens, okay? Broadcast safe. If this is not checked, you're not a colorist. If this is checked, boom, congratulations. You're a colorist. You don't need to watch this anymore. You're done. I'm kidding. But honestly, you need to turn this on. This means that Resolve got your back. If you slip up somewhere, it's going to help you out. And it's going to make sure that when you turn that thing into, broadcast, television, whatever, for a network, it's going to take you that extra mile and help you out and get you cleared everywhere, and you're not going to fail anything. So now let's go to general options. Everything is looking great. We don't need to worry about anything. Camera raw is not applicable because we're not working with raw footage for this section. Capture and playback is already set up. Subtitles are set up. Fairlight is set up. And boom, we're just breezing through it. And guys, this is what I'm talking about. Resolve is not a freaking rocket science. Yes, it goes really deep, but they are so good with how they have everything set up. There's a lot of hand-holding happens here, and that's great because it just gets you started, okay? It's not as intimidating as you might thought. The footage that I'm going to be working with is this guy right here. It's a commercial that I did for P&G a couple of years back, Olympics commercial. So I'm going to pick this guy. And now we're getting into our next section, which is going to be Conform. So I'm going to show you what's the hottest way in the commercial business. A lot of the creative agencies are using this method and it's getting popular by the second. So if your editors worked in Media Composer, Final Cut 10, or Premiere Pro, the traditional way was to bring in your footage, do the raw round trip, which is basically bringing in your footage with XMLs or EDLs. And then once it comes in here, you have a conformist or on an online editor that goes in, spends a day, syncs everything up, makes sure that there is no slippage in your time code, makes sure that, the speed ramps are translated correctly, makes sure that repos are coming in accurately. But that is so much work. And nowadays, everything is just turn and burn, and we just have a quick turnaround. So you don't want to waste your time doing all that. But at the same time, you don't want to sacrifice for the image. So what you want to ask for is a clean out. You're going to ask your editor that, hey, send me a clean out. And what that means is that they are going to take off any effects they had, like say a show LUT or something applied while they were editing so they can see what they're editing so it doesn't look this flat. They're going to take that off. They're going to take their transcoded footage and connect it back to Camera Original. So it goes back to Alexa, Mini, whatever, like RE raw files. And then once it's connected, they're going to kick out the highest, codec possible, which in this case was ProRes 444, because we're working with Resolve, we're working with Alexa Mini footage, so that needed to be in 444. But let's just say that if you're working with Sony A7 III, then you're only shooting in 8-bit. You can really export ProRes, regular ProRes, and that's really fine. Let's just say you're working with Panasonic GH5s, a camera that shoots 10-bit. Then you can really export in ProRes HQ. You don't need to go further than that. But because this is Alexa, or if it was Red, then I would ask for ProRes 444. So that's what we got. Now let's get into the conforming section. So what you need to do is, if I were to just grab this and bring it down, look what happens. Okay, so now I got this one long clip clumped together. So it's one baked file. clumped together. So if I were to grade it, I can grade this shot and it will apply that grade to the whole thing. That's no good. That's not what we want to do. So let's just remove that. And instead what we want to do is right click right here and say scene cut detection. And like you can see, like now everything is good to go. So what you want to do is this guy right here, your best friend, hit auto scene detect, and basically Resolve does a wonderful job. It goes ahead and it adds cuts to any time it assumes that there's a shot change. It's not going to do a perfect job every time. So that's why when you ask for a clean cut from your offline editor, you just want to make sure that they take out all the transitions, all the graphics, all the looks, and they give you the cleanest image that you can grade and send back. And then they can just drop all those things on there. But since we had some fade in and fade out, it's not the worst thing. Like I'm going to show you a workaround that to fix it in here. So let's just go to our first shot. One thing that you need to remember is 4 keys, write them down. You're going to be using them a lot. N, P, plus, minus. N is for next. Let's go right here. N is for next, P is for previous. So if it works, okay. Yeah, N is for next, P is for previous. So like now you can see that it's moving right here. I'm hitting N and I'm hitting P. So what we need to do is 2 of the same here and different shot here is perfect. 3 of the same, no good. 2 of these, the same on the left side, no good. So 2 on the right side, the same, different shot on the left. That's what you are looking for, okay? So the first one looks great because 2 of the same and then different. Go to next. Now I'm going to hit minus. I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need this. So keep hitting minus until we move on to the next shot. That's the next shot. So 2 of the same. And then this is different. Now I'm going to hit next. Same. So I'm going to hit minus. Next shot. Now I'm going to hit next, next, next. Good. Now I'm going to hit 3 of the same. No good. Minus, minus, minus. Next. Good. Good. Next. Same. Minus, minus, minus. Keep hitting minus until we're on to the next shot, and that's okay. So you basically got the idea. That's what you're going to be doing. We're going to be working on this shot, so I'm just going to leave it right here. And then another important step is to hit add cuts to media pool. Once you do that, now the Resolve the project went from, or the file went from our Finder level into our project, and we have it right here. So this is, there you go. This is the clip that we're working on. So what we need to do is right click here and say, create new timeline, and I'm just going to call it Simone Hero from Resolve. And I'm calling it from Resolve, so when we export it, it's going to take the timeline name and it's going to be set to from Resolve, so people will know on the other end that it's coming from Resolve. It's graded. Now let's go over to our color page, and what I want to do here really quick is just give you an overview of everything that we're going to be using today. I can't go over everything. I can spend a lot of time going through this page. So the first thing we want to do is, anytime you start your grade, first thing you want to do is just pick your hero frame. So in a scene, you want to pick a hero shot. Let's just say this is the hero shot. Now I want to pick a hero frame. Hero frame is basically like where everything is visible, everything is perfect, and that's where I want to start building my grade off of. So I'm going to park it right here. This is pretty hero, and that's my shot. So I'm going to park it right here. Let's go through some of these options. Gallery. When you click this tab open, this is for your gallery still. So once I create a look, I can save it here, then go on and create different looks. And then I can reference those old looks from here to see which one I like more. So you're going to be using that in your gallery stills right here. This is a newly added feature in Resolve 16. What this means is if you're coming from a Final Cut 10 world, then you know what that is. I can just hover over and see what my looks are going to do once I apply them. And there's no surprise there. This is such a welcome addition. They didn't have that before. Moving on to the right side, clips. If you have tons of clips here, you got to click this guy to open it up and select which clip you're working on. I usually leave it off so then we have more real estate and you guys can see what is going on the screen. This is a node panel or a node tree panel. So that's where all your nodes are going to be stored. And this is your open effects. And open effects is, where all your effects, third-party plugins, Resolve plugins are saved. And if you want to use them, you can use them right here. And then once you select them, it goes into settings and you can change the parameters. Now, Resolve works, on a node tree structure. So that is different than layer-based if you're used to it. And when I create my node tree structure here, I'm going to explain to you what's happening and how to set it up. Bottom left, our first panel here in this section is camera raw. So if this footage was shot in raw, then these wouldn't have been grayed out, and we were able to change anything that we want here if it was shot in raw. This is for if you were using a color checker card, then you can pick your color checker card, hit match, and that's going to do your balance and exposure for you. And it works really, really well. This is going to be the most used panel in this section right here. So these are your primaries wheels. And if you guys follow me on Instagram, YouTube, and all that, you know I'm all about primaries. Most of my heavy lifting is done right here. So that is available right here. And then I'm not going to worry about that because we're not going to be using it. And then our last panel right here in the tab is log. So these are log wheels. These are primary wheels. They might look the same, but they're very different. And I'm going to show you in a second what I mean once I go through all of these. Curves. So a lot of people use curves, for their primary correction instead of primaries wheels. I prefer primaries wheels, but if you use curves, totally fine. You can make your micro adjustments right here. And then all these tabs, you can just go through and select whatever you want, like hue versus hue, hue versus sat. And anytime you see these tabs, you're also going to see this little twirl down, and you can do the same thing here. Same rule applies right here. Twirl down, you can just select like this, or you can just go through the tabs. Eventually, you'll know which one is which, and you can just click on these tabs without, thinking about anything. The second icon right here is qualifier. So if you're coming from Premiere Pro, if you're coming from Photoshop, this is your HSL. Okay, this is where you pull keys. This is where I can isolate, a certain color value and then keep that intact and change everything around it, or just affect that specific part of the frame. So that all happens right here. We're going to be doing that. And then windows are your windows if you want to garbage match something out, or if you just want to apply something to a specific part of the frame, or if you want to create vignettes, things like that. You have a bunch of different shapes and you can use them here. And then a perfect progression from that is that once you're going to create a window, you would want to track it, and you don't want to do manual keyframing. You want the computer to track it for you. And Resolve's tracker is one of the best in the business. It's so freaking good. You don't need to know anything about tracking. It just takes care of it. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And then this is for blur and sharpening. So if you think about like beauty spots, things like that, they're using a lot of like mist effect, to make the girls look like goddesses. And that's happening right here using the mist. Or we can use, I'm going to be showing you how to properly use sharpening here and how good it is, how intelligent it is. And then right here where it says key, this is basically your opacity if you're working with a layer-based system like After Effects or something like that. So key output here, I can control the strength. So let's just say on this node, if I drop in a LUT and it's just too strong, I can control the intensity of that right here. This is for your positioning. If you want to do any repos or anything like that, that's going to be happening right here. Let's look at this section on the right-hand side. This is for your keyframes. If you're going to do static keyframes, dynamic keyframes, that all happens right here. If you click on this little guy, this is going to be your scopes, but it's only going to give you, it's limited to just one scope at a time. And then I can click right here for info metadata, and that's going to tell me everything about the clip that I'm working on. So I'm just going to leave it on keyframe for right now. And we are moving along. Everything is looking good. Just right click and I'm going to pop up my scopes. Now that I have my scopes up, let's just study them and let me show you a few things about it. So if you're coming from a photography background, you understand what a histogram is. If you're coming from a cinematography background, videography background, you know what a waveform is. Now, if you have done some sort of color correction, then you understand parade and vector scopes, okay? So Parade is great for white balancing and just making sure that everything is looking good, because we can just look at it right here and tell a lot of the story, what's happening. Like reds are a little lifted, greens are right here, and blues are kind of down. And eventually it's going to be more clear once we start adding contrast, do proper exposure and saturation. On the right side, waveform is perfect for just making sure nothing is clipping, everything is in control. So that's for that. Vector scope is for saturation. Mostly it can also be used for balance, and then it's perfect for skin tones. But for that, you got to go on in this little guy, click on that, and then turn on show skin tone indicator. That's very important. I'm going to show you why. Just go ahead and turn that on. Always leave that on if you're working with people. Histogram is also going to do a little bit of these two things, you know, so it's going to tell you if anything is clipping on the bottom or the top. It's also going to tell you the white balance. If everything is in the middle, you know it's properly balanced. If it's off, and sometimes you're going to do it intentionally to have it off, so that's totally fine. Now that we have that under control, I'm going to go in here back into my edit page, and I'm going to do something really quick. Now, don't freak out on me. You know I'm not the kind of guy that's going to go in and pull up a grayscale image and spend 17 hours on it, but I am the kind of guy who's going to spend 5 minutes on it because this is essential. You need to understand what's happening on the back end for some of these tools you're going to be using. Nothing is going to help you more than doing it on a grayscale image. So what I want to show you is the difference between primaries wheels and log wheels, because just so many friends and people that I know that just like, you know, pick and choose, like close their eyes and they pick one to use, and they're not the same. Okay, so let me just,
before you start on this, move your screen. You're blocking like the wheels.
What screen? Oh,
Your
can I move it?
Picture. You can turn it off or you can move it.
I don't know. I mean, I'm right here. I don't know.
Click on the little sprocket.
That's to make it full screen.
No, the one at the end.
That's to.
Then maybe, can you move them up?
Oh, is it better?
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Sorry for the little interruption, but that's very important because I'm showing you all this right now. So let's pull up our scopes. So we're back in Resolve, and now let's just say I'm working on an image and I'm saying that, hey, it's I want to crush my shadows a little bit, you know, it's too bright. So if I grab my lift and I bring it down, just look at what's happening, okay? How everything is moving in unity, like in unison, like how everything is just working so smoothly, how it's moving. Just focus right here while I use these. And now I'm going to go into my gamma and I'm going to do the same thing up and down. Just look the ease in and ease out on the knee and in the shoulder in our curve, like how smooth it is. And then gain is going to do the same that lifted on the bottom end. So that gives you an idea of, this is why I tell you this is the best non-destructive way to work on your footage. Primaries wheels is where it's at. The difference between you and just a Joe Schmo colorist is going to be that you keep your image intact and the integrity of your image, like it stays pristine, and primaries are going to help you accomplish that. Now let's go over to the log wheels and let me show you the difference. So they might look the same or very similar, but they are so freaking different. Just watch this. If I go into my shadow and do the same exact thing, just look at what the hell is happening. Just look at the scopes. And not only that, just look at the abrupt line that's being created. That's basically giving away your magic. And if you're a magician, that's a terrible thing to do. Okay. And that's what's happening here. Now, I'm not saying don't ever use it. I'm saying this is a specialty tool. This is not how you build your grade. You use that to aid your grade and like lean it in some way. So if you're creating a teal and orange look or something like that, this is going to be a perfect tool to balance out your black points and white points. So that's what you're going to use this for, and we're going to use it. So I'm going to show you how to properly do it. Let's just say if you're working with Sony footage and there's a lot of gunk in your skin and it's sitting in like the green, like Hulk area, which it usually does, and you want to take that out. That's where this is going to be amazing because it helps you do micro adjustments. So you can just go in and go opposite of that, you know, green tint that you're getting, and boom, it's going to pull that from the skin tone. So it's very important. Okay, guys, this is it for the scopes and the grayscale image. Let's just go into the real thing. That's our hero shot. So I'm going to park it right here. And let's start cooking. But before I do that, I want to show you one more quick thing. So I'm going to click right here and I'm going to import images from one of my favorite movies, Sicario. Roger Deakins is the freaking man. And I'm going to show you, pull up these images and study the scopes for 1 second. And that's going to change everything for you, okay? You need to understand how it's being done in Hollywood, because that's the proof is in the pudding. This is going to tell you everything. Okay, so let's bring in these images, and I want to show you something that's going to freaking blow your mind. I'm going to go up here. Let's pull up this image. So I'm going to hit this guy to pop that image in, and then let's just move it over so we can see the entire image. That's perfect. Just look at what's happening here. Look at where the highlights are. So one of the biggest amateur mistake is that you're going to bring in your image and you're just going to jack it, to the bottom and jack it to the top. And you're going to be like, I'm a colorist. Like I just maxed out, like, my image was sitting in the middle. I took it to the top, took it to the bottom. I'm maxing out on my vector scope. Like I'm a colorist. Look at what's happening here, guys. Come on, read this and how perfect this is. Let me just blow this up, make it bigger so you guys can see. Look at the highlights in the clouds. Look at the highlights in her face. Look at the shirt, the white shirt on this dude in the back, and how everything is freaking protected and just looks so juicy, yet there's so much contrast. This is the freaking sauce, guys. Study this stuff when you're working on your grades. I'm going to show you other grades, okay? So this is supposed to be around noon. So this is like high noon. Just look at the curves where they're, like, look at just your scopes where they're sitting. Let's go to another shot. Look at where everything is sitting. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is really freaking important to understand. So now that we have that out of the way, let's start building our grade. Let's jump right into it. This is how I always do it. My structure stays the same. And then it's really easy if I'm working on something. I know exactly where to troubleshoot if I'm asked to do a certain thing. And this is what I do. First note is always going to be reserved for noise reduction. It's going to make sense in 3 minutes. Second note is going to be for my primaries. And in this case, let's just jump right into it. So the first rule you need to understand when you're doing a primary correction is push and pull. Okay, what that means is that I'm going to go in my lift. I'm going to pull this guy down. So it's somewhere around here. So already it's looking pretty good. Like, my blacks are starting to, look pretty good. It doesn't look flat anymore. Then I'm going to take my gain. I'm going to bring it up. And I'm going to bring it and I'm going to keep it somewhere around here. Like, let's just stick with Roger Deacon's school of thought. Okay, so let's just stick somewhere around here. This is looking fine. We still have a lot of work to do, but it's a good start. If I go before and after, it's pretty good. Now I want you to take your saturation, crank it all the way, 100%. Don't freak out. Everything is going to look great at the end. Just crank it out so you can start seeing what is really happening here. So what's happening here is that my reds are lifted like a mother. And I can see it on my screen, but let's just say your screen is not calibrated. You can just look at your scopes and your scopes can tell you the story. Look at how lifted the reds are. Look at how lifted the reds are here. Green is here, blue is here. And that is the theme throughout, okay, in all your scopes. So that's what they're telling you. Now, where are the lifted the most? The bottom is touching the bottom, like all of it. So that means the bottom is looking fine. Like if I look at the blackest point, like it's looking fine. It's the mid-tone, the lower mids where the problem is. Like look how lifted they are right here. And then even the top is somewhat balanced, not all the way, but somewhat. But the real problem is happening right here in the lower mids. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go to my mid-tone, which is my gamma right here. So if we have a lot of red, which lives right here, let's pull that. Let's subtract that red. So I'm going to go right here, subtract that red. Somewhere around here. And now if I'm looking at my image, just look at that, how even this looks right here. Look at how even this looks right here. If I do before, look at how everything is, like the reds are so lifted. And if I undo and look at where my reds are, everything is just like one big white line right here. And that means your balance is looking pretty proper. Now that this is looking good, even right here, we're looking really good. Next thing that you need to do is add more contrast, because right now that's what's lacking. It doesn't have that punch that we want. So that's going to happen right here. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to crank it. Don't be shy. Just go around somewhere around here. That's totally fine. It's not bad at all. I mean, another thing that I can do is I can just lift my bottom a little bit, and then I can take my gain and bring it down just to touch. And now if we look at it before and after, it's looking pretty good. But look at all this gunk. You see all this noise? We're going to take care of it. I'm going to show you a technique that's going to blow your mind in a second. Okay, so now the next thing that we have to do is you want to create as much separation as possible when you're working with people. So when you pull keys, they're the cleanest keys. And I'm going to show you right now what I'm talking about. So one more thing that I want to do before I go into the next note is let's try to dial in the look a little bit in here. Just a tiny bit, okay? We're going to be very conservative. So I'm going to take my lift and I'm going to pull it down just a little bit. Now, I just want to mention, I never work with mouse. I'm always working on my panels. So everything that you're seeing is like, 100% slower than how it would be if I was just using the panel. I would be like freaking breezing through this right now. but this is just so you guys can follow along and see what is really happening. So let's just say I'm happy with this. This is a little bit of a look, and this is good. This is where I want to start with. I'm just focusing on her skin right now. And then let's go right in here. Let's just make sure that the skin indicator is on and the skin is sitting right here. So it's sitting in a really good spot. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and right click on this node and say layer. So when you click on layer, this is what's happening, okay? Anything that's at the bottom, imagine that that's on top. The bottom layer takes precedent on the top layer. So bottom is top, top is bottom. That's how you want to think about it. And if this is our top, what do we want to do? I'm going to go into my qualifier and I'm going to select my qualifier right here. And I'm going to just do a nice swipe right here over her forehead. When you're pulling keys, the best place to pull keys from is the forehead. Just remember, this is pretty good. Okay. It's doing a pretty good job, but you see all these little dots and like this gunk. That's because we have so much noise in our image. And once we clean that up, you're going to see, and this is what's going to explain to you why it's important to put your noise reduction as your first node. So now let me go in here. And this might be exclusive to Resolve Studio. I don't know. But let's just go in here and let me show you my secret sauce. And guys, this is it. This is everything. That's what you need to do. Go under spatial threshold, break the chain. Just take chroma, crank it up around 6.8-ish. Now let me make this bigger. Where did the noise go? You see this? The freaking image is kept pristine. Noise is freaking gone. Now, if I go into my key, look how much cleaner the key is now. You understand what I'm saying? How it was before to now, how it is. And what I need to do is, one thing that I need to do is I'm seeing right here that I want to grab more of her cheek. And I can see that it's not selecting it because the luminance is pretty high. So I'm going to grab my luminance. I'm going to move it back somewhere around here. And let's just try to pull the key one more time and see if we can get a cleaner key. And actually, you know what? I'm just going to go back. And then what we want to do is just go into our blur and just crank it. Don't be shy. Crank that blur. And the next thing that we want to do is go into our window. And we just want to go in right here to our polygon window and create a window around it. So basically, I want to garbage mat anything that's around her. I don't want to select that at all. I just want to select her. Nothing around her. So once I do that, this is exactly what happens. And if I turn it on and off, you're seeing what happens. And then we're going to go to the next window and we want to track that. So I'm just going to hit track back. Boom. It just does it for you. Everything is freaking tracked. So now that everything is tracked, I can go in here, make this bigger. And what I want to do is I want to go in here to my curves and I want to grab it from here somewhere and just pull it up a little bit. I just want to give her a little bit of juice. Just pull her out of the background a little bit, okay? Now I'm only affecting my skin, nothing else. That's what's happening. And now what I want to do is show you one more trick, and that's going to change your life. Go in here and click the second tab right here, and under midtone detail, a lot of people use it for detail. We're going to use it for the opposite effect. So just focus on the face, and let me just crank that up and show you a lot of detail, and now take it back. And that's where the magic happens. Just look at how it's evening out her face. And then if I pull it back, you can see it even clearly. If I go up, you see the bags under her eyes. If I go back, like it's smooths everything out. And for females, I've noticed that somewhere around 28 to 33 is the sauce. That's the good spot. So now we're going to park it right there. It's looking great. I'm going to go to my top layer. And let me show you this technique. You guys are going to freaking love it. So let's uncheck this. Okay. I'm going to go into my red and I just want to add teal, which means I want to subtract red. I'm going to go to the top and look at what I'm going to do. So now you might go, dude, what the hell is going on to her face? Don't worry about it. How much teal do we want? Let's just say we'll want this teal to be somewhere around here. That's the look that we want. All you have to do is go into your window, create a little window around her face, tilt it a little bit, smooth it out, invert it, boom. The face is protected and everything around her is freaking perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to go in here. We're going to track it because we don't want to do the manual labor. We want Resolve to do most of the heavy lifting. It's done. It's tracked. Now you might go, what about the freaking US red? We want that red back because after creating the look, like look how much red we lost. No problem. Right click, create another layer node, and I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to punch in. I'm just going to swipe over my red, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to open it up a little bit. So width, I'm just going to open it up a little bit so it selects everything, and then always blur it out. Keep it clean. And now if I pull out of here and I click on it, I brought my red back. Okay. So this is where the look was created. If I turn this on and off, like, look what's happening. We did all of that and it freaking holds in. Nothing. There's no artifacts. There's nothing. Okay. This is holding in. And the one thing that I'm noticing right now is like this thing right here. And that's because when I created a window, I did not blur it out. And also I could have done a better job. So first of all, we got to smooth it out. So once I smooth it out, it's not going to do what it was doing there. And then second thing that I want to show you is like, let's go back in here. What you need to do is turn it into frame. And then let's go back. This is looking good. This is where it's kind of coming over her hand. So first thing, we click right here and that adds a little red dot. That means that it's recording. It's in the live recording mode. Now I can come in here and say, hey, grab this guy, go over. And now look, so this is dynamic keyframing. It's going to move. So now I can come in here and say, hey, open this up again. Open this up again. And that's going to close down here. Boom. So now we fix that problem. And if I show you what was happening before, it's not going to be happening now. So let's watch it again. Looks pristine. Looks great. Moving on. This, what I usually use it for is my look adjustment node. So basically, the look adjustment node is if I'm in my offset right here and I grab this guy, I usually just like rotate, circle it around a little bit and see what I like. So in this case, I like it a little bit around here because we just create more color separation, as you can see. And like, look, we're just adding like the Joker green, tint to the shadows in the lower mids. And I think it looks kind of cool and just adds more separation from the skin. So let's just say I want to leave it there, right? What I want to do is I'm going to create another node. This one, I'm going to pull it down. So any finishing touches are going to live at the bottom layer. And this is where I'm going to create my vignettes. So what I'm going to do is create a circle and be generous with the size. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to turn it a little bit. And you can make it bigger a little bit more. So this is looking good. Let's just do this. And then let me show you where your softness need to be, somewhere around 21 to 25. So I'm going to keep it around 22-ish. That's great. Now what I want to do is right click on it and say add node, outside node. So we want to affect only the outside area. Now I'm going to go in here. I'm going to say, hey, chain that up, link that everything up. And now I'm going to go right here and I'm going to pull it down. I'm looking for drama, okay? This is drama. Like the focus is where the focus should be on our hero and not on anything else. Now, we know for a fact that she stays in the center of the frame, so we don't need to track this one. Don't overdo anything. Just do what you need to do. So now this looks freaking glossy as hell. Looks perfect. Couple of last touches to like really bring it home. And it's going to happen right here. Like our blur and sharpening. I want you to go right here, go to radius, pull it down to 47. That's the sauce. If I make this full screen and if I show you what's happening, turn on and off, just look at our eyes. It's not adding unnecessary soft sharpening everywhere. It's just putting it where it's supposed to. I'm going to go under grain. I'm all things grain. I love grain. Nothing gives, the feeling of film than adding some grain. I'm going to go to 35, 400, and I'm going to add some strength. Now, this is shot on Alexa, so it already has some grain, but this is just going to accentuate it a little bit more. And guys, let's do this. Let me just go into versions and let me show you before and after. Let's turn that off and let's just enjoy this look this concoction that we just cooked up so fast, and just look at the two. Okay. So we pulled our key, we did our primary correction. One thing that I'm noticing right now, that it can use a little bit more softening on the node that we had on her face. So super easy. We're going to go back in here. We're going to go into right here, and we're just going to soften it out a little bit. And then we can also make it a little bit smaller, so it just hugs her a little bit more. And now if we play it back, looks freaking perfect. Okay, so simple look, really effective. And once you have your concepts down, you can attack these and get crazy results very easily. Let me just turn off the look that we created. And if we wouldn't have gone for the look and they wanted like natural poppy thing, then we could have just done that and that would have been the end of it. But we wanted to take it a step further and just like really, really freaking create a mood, you know, and that's what that is. So that is it for the tutorial section. I hope you guys loved it. Let me show you one last thing. Let's move on to the delivery page and let's look at this. So let's just say you were exporting this for web. You want the highest quality. Go click on H.264 master. This is how you're going to start it off. You're going to click right here. This is your best friend. Click on this guy. That's going to open up that window so you can see everything here. And now that I'm here, I just need to worry about a couple of things. What I need to do is 1080p sounds good. 24 frames sounds good. Automatic, that's ugly. I want to restrict it. And I want to restrict it to 40,000. If you are doing 1080p, 40,000. If you're doing 4K UHD, 80,000. Okay. I'm going to go into advanced settings. I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to turn on force sizing to highest quality, force debarrier to highest quality. It's applicable when you're working with raw footage, but just get in the habit of using that. It doesn't hurt. And now what I'm going to do is click on these three dots, say save as new preset, and I'm going to call it web 1080p or HD, whatever you like. Now, tomorrow, if I'm working on a different project, whatever, I could be anywhere. And then I can just come in here and I can click on web 1080p and it's going to pull up exactly all of my settings and I'm ready to go. So let's just say I want to render just this guy right here, not this. I can just click render. I can pick up a destination, whatever it might be. And let's just, one thing that I want to do is go in file and say timeline name. So it selects my timeline name. And now I can say, you know what, just dump it in documents, hit render queue. And now it's in your render queue, start to render. And boom, Resolve is super fast. Like, look how fast it rendered it out. And that is that. And there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed the crash course. Now, the good thing is that you're off to a pretty solid start that you can build on, but Resolve runs deep. And if you really want to take your game to the next level and become a pro colorist, make sure to check out the links in the description below. Hit a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for more awesomeness. Please share this with your friends, and I will see you in the next video.